What's up, everybody? Steve Wallace here, creator, producer, composer of Hal King, and I am super excited today. Sharae Moultrie is in the house. What's up, Sharae? Give it up,
Hello.
everybody, for Sharae. Sharae plays Kat in Hal King, and we're going to be here for Hal analysis so we can break this thing down, so we can analyze Hal King and understand all the aspects that go into it as far as what us, the creatives, did to put it all together for you all. All right. So, what up, Sharae?
Hey, how you doing, Steve?
I'm
Nice
good.
to be
I'm
here.
good. Yeah. Let's talk about Hal King. Everyone I speak to, they really enjoy your performance in it.
Oh,
Yeah. So I've been in a couple of interviews, and they give like out awards at the end of the interviews and stuff like that. And so they love you and Tyreek, and they love so much, so many more in the cast. How did you get involved with doing musical theater because you do a lot of musical theater now,
Mhm.
and also talk a little about how we got connected and how you got a part of How King as well.
So I got my start singing in the church. Obviously, I think a lot of people did, but I found my way to musical theater when I moved to high school. I'm from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I got mistakenly put in this choir called the show choir at my school. And they did a lot of musical theater work and show tunes and all of that stuff. And I didn't really like, I'd heard of Broadway and things a little bit,
Yeah.
like I knew what Dreamgirls was and like some of the Wiz and things like that, but didn't know anything about Hello Dolly or any of those Oklahoma, those types of things. So
Sure.
I got my introduction to musical theater through that choir. And I just kind of fell in love with the idea of combining acting and singing at the same time, and just the costuming, just all the whole full process of what musical theater is and the magic. I moved to New York not to do musical theater originally.
Oh,
I
okay.
moved to New York to do finance. So I worked in finance for a little while and then would go to shows and realize like I was missing it a lot, and like, why am I not trying to do that? And I lived
Sure.
in New York and kind of found my way and have been doing musical theater for the past couple of years. Connecting to Hal King and to you, Steve, we went to the same church. I just happened again to stumble upon this church when I moved to New York, joined the choir, and Steve was the director. Yeah, you kind of gave me a call one day randomly and said you were doing this cool project, and I was really starting to get my feet wet in acting and things like this. This was my first film, and so I was like, "You want me to be in it?"
Hmm.
Absolutely. I thought I would be in it for a hot second, but he wanted me to play one of the lead roles, so I was like,
Yeah.
"Absolutely."
So anyway, let's get into it. The whole thing with the Hal analysis is that we break down like your favorite scene or a scene in the film. And it's typically been a scene that the person is in. Though we had Myron on one time, so that didn't apply there. But actually, side note, Myron is actually in the film.
I was gonna say, did he have a cameo? I feel like
He didn't have a cameo per se. I think they were filming, and he didn't realize after they started shooting that he was in the background.
he was in the shot. Oh,
Yeah,
really?
he was in a shot. It's like really. I think they were shooting, and then he just realized, and he just started like moving with the crowd like this. um,
That's
it's in the
amazing.
film. Tell us a little bit about the scene that you chose that we spoke about.
Yeah, I feel like the club scene where everyone kind of meets each other, and there's this opportunity for you to meet who Scroop is and see the dynamic between Scroop and Kat. And this is the first instance that you see this interaction, and I think it does a
Hmm.
lot of kind of foreshadowing and just shows what the rest of the film will bring. And so yeah, it was one of the I wouldn't say difficult, but very interesting scenes that we shot. It was one of the first days that we were shooting. So I do really remember kind of walking into it like, oh, what is this going to be like? This is a very interesting type of scene,
Yeah.
and how are we going to do this and how do we make it work? So
So this is in Act 1 of How King, and we're in the club, Madam Quickly's. Um, and Kat, what is Kat doing? Are you supposed to be there? You hang out here all the time, or what's going on here?
yeah, I'm not supposed to be there. I My father is giving a big speech at another venue, and I decide that I'm going to talk to the folks who are closest to me as far as like the next generation, trying to kind of convince them this is the way to go. So I go to this open mic and share my thoughts and lift my voice, and
Hmm. And your
someone
dad,
interrupts.
and
Uh-huh.
your dad, and someone interrupts, that would be me. And your dad is a local politician
Yes.
here in this small town of
Yes.
Alaya, wherever that
Yes.
is.
And I do not agree with his views at all.
Hmm.
I'm quite the opposite of what he wants and kind of wants to push forward. And so that's why I get interrupted and sort of pulled out of the venue.
So right there, you'll see Darian Dean, which this is a funny point too, is that you never met Darian
No,
on set.
no.
You met him after when we did it.
I only met him on Zoom at this point. I've never
No,
met
no,
him in
no,
person.
no. We did that one thing at MNN before. Remember? Where it
Him
was
and him.
you? Yeah, yeah. At the TV station. Went to the TV station. It was you. It was Darian,
Are you
and it
sure?
was Tony. Yeah, I got pictures, man. I'm gonna put pictures on the screen right now. I got pictures. We were there
Oh,
together, and I remember this
oh,
conversation.
wait. I do remember that. Wow,
Yeah,
this was so long ago. It's like now it's coming back. Okay, I do
yeah, yeah.
remember that. I do
And I
remember that.
remember that conversation because y'all were in the room together,
That's
and
right.
you're like, okay, who is this guy, and who are
Right.
you? And I was like, wait, you're like in the same scene, sort of, but you've never
Right.
met each other, which is really
Right.
fascinating.
The magic of film and
The magic of film,
TV.
yeah, all the secrets. But anyway, here we go. This is Darian Dean plays Hotspur, and he's coming to look for Hal. Hal's been kicking and hanging out, but he's not living up to his responsibility. And Darian Dean is plays Hotspur, his cousin. He's like, you need to come back home and get your life right. Right? That's outside. And inside, there's this guy named SCROOP that shows up, and he's like, and we'll show that, and we'll see what happens. All right, here we go.
Brothers and sisters, there is an urgency going on in our city right now. A major debate happened tonight, and the leaders are going to take over our city. We have to let them know that we are no longer going to be silent puppets, sitting by while other people make decisions for us. We are gonna take the power into our own hands as a community. And
That's it. You're done. Let's go.
what do you think you're doing? This is a good place. You can't come in here harassing my
This isn't one of your acts. This is the daughter of Leroy Prince.
Let me go.
But I have to
Mhm.
stop on this shot because this shot is so classic now. This shot right here, when he throws her on the table, it's just become such an iconic shot for Hal King. Um,
Mhm.
it's so dramatic, so awesome. That whole section here and this, oh, this is great. This is great. Shout out to Torae for this too. Let's talk about. I want to talk about your hair.
Mm. Yeah, that was a whole situation. I think this was like the first or second day we were shooting. We had had a conversation about costuming and hair and stuff initially, and I was supposed to wear a hat at first
Oh,
um,
really?
for this scene. Yeah, but then I think there was sort of a miscommunication or something, where one person thought I should wear the hat and the other person didn't.
I
And the way
remember
my
that.
hair was, it was hard for the hat to really like stay
Yeah.
on anyway. So I
Uh-huh.
took it off to show, and I showed Myron. He's like, "Your hair looks great like that. Just fluff it and go out there."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
I think it was like a beret or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
it is in the script. The
Mm-hmm.
script it says like young tomboyish 20s wearing a beret or something like that.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I think it works. It does work. It works particularly because of her attitude and the message that she's getting across. This is obviously before Black Panther and all that stuff like that happened,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's a nice kind of tribute to it almost, or
Yeah,
showing that that's the direction that the world is going to go in,
yeah.
embracing who we are 100% in our look and in our voices.
There's also earlier before this, and we had to work it out too. But you come in with a leather jacket on, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then we shot you like taking it off. I don't even know if that made into the film or not, but
I don't think so.
um, Yeah, because
But yeah,
then we started shooting this scene and you didn't have it on, and we're like, oh, we gotta
right.
transition the jacket, you know. But
Duty.
it was enough time in between. It's like you're coming in here and it's a whole nother scene, and then we see you again. So,
Right.
but yeah, that the Black Panther thing, like one of the things in my mind was like, okay, well, two things. Number one is that Cat would technically be would grow to be a Black Panther, because if this was in the
Mm.
50s, then let's say she was 20 or I don't know, she was still living at home with her dad, so she might have been like
Yeah. 18,
teens.
19. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you put 10 years on her,
And
and
yeah.
you're in like 69, and she's a Black Panther. You know what I mean? Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
so, but the other thing is this, because I remember there was these reviewers that were like, okay, I don't know what time period I'm in, and I never intended on Hal King to be in like one specific time period
Mm.
ever.
Really?
No, no, I wanted it mostly to be 50s ish with touches of things from other eras.
Mm.
So like Hal wears like this poet shirt from like the some Shakespearean poet shirt or whatever, like or even like a 19th century thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and Scroop later wears like has like Vans on, like when in the last scene where
Oh, did
he,
he?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We knew about all that stuff, and we were like, is this what we want to do? Like, yeah, yeah. Because I wanted it to feel like even the cars, like if you're gonna break it down, like the cars,
Yeah,
like
I do remember the cars were different. Yeah.
yeah,
Totally.
yeah. There were some that were from the 50s, but there were like other ones that were not, you know. Yeah, so I never really I wanted it to feel classical and modern at the same time.
I mean, I thought that the goal was for it to be in the period for most of the time, but then have some touches of like
Mhm.
modernism, but like a little bit of a contemporary feel.
Yeah, we take for granted the music a lot because we're so indoctrinated to modern music. This
Hmm.
music would have never existed in
Oh,
that
right,
time period, like at all.
right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
So like even like the blends and mixes and stuff, like it's stuff from like classical music, it's stuff from jazz, it's stuff from R&B. It's like, you know,
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
it's not like not even that R&B from then. You know, this ain't the R&B from then.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So anyway, let's let it run.
Let me go to call me Torae, Leroy Fresh. He stands for nothing, I stand for right to announce the man. And the platform on which he stands. Stop! No!
Get out of my way!
No! Let me go!
Say man, don't. It's out of your head. Says who? Says Leroy French. That's his daughter.
Yeah, we got to stop there, right? Don't we have to stop there? We have to stop there, don't we?
Well, you have to show the shoe. I think the shoe is a fun story too.
Yeah, yeah, we'll get there, but we have to stop here
Yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. You mean before we keep going? I got you, got you.
So were you surprised when you saw this scene the way it was edited or how it looked when you saw it, or were you more like I don't even know what happened and this was like 3 years ago and like oh cool I'm looking at something now.
Like I remember bits and pieces of it. Like I remember us doing that scene in the bar where he grabs me a couple of times, and then I did forget that I like ran through the car and like ran around. I kind of forgot that piece of it.
Yeah.
Um, but then when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, we did do all of that. That's right. And I thought it was really well edited.
Yeah, I was kind of sad we had to cut it up as much as we did, but we had to just because of the pace of the music. I mean, we
Hmm.
do musicals and this stuff's kind of pre-made, and you got to kind of cut with what the music is doing. And it was brilliant what Myron and Jim did, because the whole shot, like that whole shot there, where like goes in across
Hmm.
the car, that actually started like further back. There's like a whole, if you I don't know, you didn't never you never saw it, but there was a whole shot where it followed you through the parking lot across the car and then to where it
Mm.
was, you know. But we got most as much as we could in it. Shout out to Kareem Walks, who is our editor. He's also a fantastic saxophonist. Uh,
Mm.
yeah. which was very helpful because it's a musical,
Right.
and so he understands like okay, like musical terminology and stuff like that. So that was really helpful. Um, Now the other thing is, do you remember what time of day it was? Well, what time of day does it look to you right here?
I mean, this is definitely like a nighttime, yeah, or
Yeah,
early in the morning maybe because we've
or
been there
early
all night,
morning.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, right. Do you remember what time we actually did shoot it?
Like, was it
Uh,
like noon or something like that?
it was something like it was actually a little afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I probably have some pictures from when we were out
Yeah,
there.
I do remember. I do. Yeah, we had 100% sunlight in the pictures. I do have.
100%.
That's right.
Yeah. So we were able to we being Kareem. Kareem was able to. I mean, I was like over had oversight over it too to make sure, but we made it look like nighttime ish to the point where you're not like looking at like oh now it's bright and it actually looks like it could be nighttime. It's actually really believable. Um, the only thing about that was that I felt like we lost a little bit of the color, in doing that.
Oh, but I think it kind of works for the scene because of the like because it's a darker scene, like
Hmm.
dramatically wise. I think it kind of makes sense that the when you the cinematography when you're looking at it, like it's a darker feel to it,
Yeah,
So I think it works.
yeah, it
There's a lot
definitely
of
was.
shadows and stuff on like our faces and things, which I think
Hmm.
is kind of cool and a contrast to in the club and elsewhere in the film.
Yeah, that's what one thing somebody like referred to like in this shot where it puts you down there and then closes the door and then you turn and someone specifically mentioned like there's this like shadow casting across your
Mm-hmm.
face. Yeah. And something we had planned because we knew how could you plan the sun to do that? And it was actually annoying for me and Kareem in editing because it was like oh, now we know it's not nighttime because there's a sun. But then, can we just say it's going to be dusk? Okay, and the sun is coming up. Sure.
Right.
Let me ask you another question. When you heard the music for Hal King in general,
Mm-hmm.
what were your thoughts, and did it feel like a typical musical to you? Did it feel like something else? What were you thinking when you heard the stuff?
No, definitely not a typical musical. Definitely leaning more on the like the R&B like hip hop sound, fused into I don't even know if I would necessarily call it a musical either. When
Hmm.
I first heard it, or when I first sort of heard about the concept, I thought about I don't know if you remember this, but Beyonce did like a film from MTV years and years and years
Yep.
ago. What was it like the hip opera of Carmen
Yeah,
hip opera
Carmen.
or
Yeah.
something?
Yep.
And that's where my mind went to that. And I think it's pretty similar in at least the concept of mixing sort of the R&B like hip hop sounds with like a more operatic or dramatic
Hmm.
storyline because it's definitely not a show tune like
Right.
musical kind of thing. So
Yeah.
when I was telling people to watch the film, I had to kind of preface it or explain a little bit about what they're getting themselves into because I have a lot of musical theater friends. And so when they think
Hmm.
of when I say, oh, I'm in a musical that's on film, they're like, oh, okay, cool. They have a completely different um, kind of idea of what they might be getting themselves into. So I had to kind of give them
Yeah.
a little bit of background.
Yeah. There were a lot of people that were surprised that everything was sung all the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. But to like conceptually for me, at least with this project, I felt like that was necessary. So it's like the concept of a world where everything is sung and no one speaks anything. Where there has to be the more of suspension of disbelief if you have to shift back and forth between singing as opposed to like we're always singing, and once you accept the fact that it's a world where people are singing everything, then the idea of going back and forth doesn't have to happen. We're just always in singing world.
The purpose of the songs in musicals are when the person doesn't have the words, right?
Exactly.
The speaking
Exactly.
words to
Yep.
describe however they're feeling or what they're going through. So they bust into song.
Yeah.
Whereas here we're just in song the full time and certain things kind of
Ebb and
there's
flow.
some ebbs and flows in the types of
Yeah,
things
like
that
I
we
mean,
make.
yeah, with musicals, it's like my emotions are so overwhelming. I must sing a song about it.
Yes, or do a dance break.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
For something like this, actually, the approach, and I'm glad that you picked up like the operatic nature of it. I want it to be as if like it's like here's the thesis statement or something like, what if opera was created right now? How would that sound? You
Mm,
know, as opposed to having the I don't know, 400 plus years of history of opera and have to make things in the context of all the stuff that already happened in Europe. So like me as a black person from America, if I think of like a concept like opera, how would I do that
mhm.
without being completely informed by what Europeans have done with it all this time? And then at the same time, it's like contradicting myself, but using like the techniques that they used, you know what I mean? But
Right.
within the perspective of just like what's happening, like more modern culturally.
Yeah, you're
And
just putting a different lens, right, on
yeah,
what you're
because
looking
a lot of people think opera and they immediately think that someone needs to be singing like this, you know what I mean? Like
at. Yeah,
that's like,
totally.
but is that is that what makes it opera, or the reality is that that type of singing is actually practical for the medium because there's no microphones, you know what I mean?
Mm. Hmm.
Yeah, so it's not like, so if all that history didn't happen where they had to sing it over like 70-piece orchestras without a microphone and microphones weren't invented, how would people be singing opera? Probably more like how people sing musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
I- that's or like
Yeah,
R&B or something.
interesting.
Just
Yeah.
theories. Just theories. I- Oh, another thing. The other thing I wanted to talk about too is this. So, it's an interesting shot. Tell us how this was for you, where you see Scroop's arms, where we sit, where
Mm-hmm.
the shot is
But
right
it's
on.
all on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how he had the camera situated because he was still really there. But I mean, you just really see the intensity in my face and just like the seriousness of the moment.
Look at that. Yeah, I think if I recall, I think Jim was like you were sort of
Like,
singing
right?
to the camera, like he was. Can't the camera was Scroop's face, and I think Dion was sort of
Like on the
like
side or
under,
something.
yeah, on like the right side of the camera, or actually both sides, and he just kind of was reaching like from behind Jim or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or did they put the
Yeah.
camera on there? They put the camera on his shoulder. I can't remember
Yeah,
now.
I feel like it might have been like
On
the
Dion's
side
shoulder.
over his shoulder or something.
Maybe that was it. Yeah. And just kind of reaching in with his hands and stuff. I thought that was a really good idea, like how that was done, because it's very striking. It's another like iconic moment for me. You know. Um,
And the blue light, like, I think is really, really cool.
yeah. Shout out to Tom with the lighting and a lot with Rob Peck and Myron as far as like coming together with the colors and the looks and stuff.
hmm
That's that. Now, do you remember that space is Rob Peck's apartment?
His plays, yeah.
Yeah, that's his
I do
apartment.
remember that. Yeah.
Because
That
we
was remarkable. Like I was able to transform that space into that.
we did some stuff like this, the posters and stuff in the back that Vanessa put up, and
Yeah. Just the fact that he had such a space that looked like it, like
yeah.
as his apartment or his house.
Right, like just kind of like underground club vibe and stuff.
Yeah.
It really, really worked well.
What the part that's funny to me whenever I look at it, I remember my shoes being a little big for me. And so when we had to do that run around, when I did the run around, my shoe came off. And in my mind, I'm like, wait, do I stop and get my shoe or did I let it go? And I was like, let me just keep going and then we'll do it again and I'll
Yeah.
put my shoe on. But I think, we made a way to make it work. Because I think
No,
it's kind of
Myron
cool
liked it.
that Hal picks it up in the next scene, right?
Right at the end here, it picks it up.
Right.
Yeah, when your shoe got left, Myron liked it, and he was like, "Oh, let's make it a thing." He's the type of director where it's like, whatever something may happen there, and just kind of gets the idea and rolls with it. I think he enjoys just kind of being in the moment and coming with the creative idea. It's like because he's a singer too. It's kind of the idea of like a singer that likes to ad lib. You know what I mean? Or a
Mhm.
musician that likes to
Or
ad lib.
like
So he,
with musicals and stuff, like it being typically being live, you kind of have to
mhm.
roll with what happens, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. This scene, this shot too, we cut it short because of the time. You know, people were, this seemed like we're sitting on Hal for a long time, but he actually holds the shoe for a while, and in the unedited version, he like throws it on the ground,
Mm. Hmm.
which is cool. But we didn't have
But I think it's better that he didn't throw it, because in
really.
my mind it goes to Cinderella,
Yeah,
where
definitely.
eventually, the
Eventually,
shoe
they get
belongs to the
together.
girl that
Yeah.
he's supposed to be with, and da da da. So I think I like the holding the shoe better.
A lot of everything is like flow of energy for me. So like even in the scene where you all are struggling, um, it's like the energy has to continue, like has to be continually flowing, for it to feel right. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like when I hear music, it's like energy is flowing and passing off from one thing to another. So the flow of the energy was right for how it looked with him holding it and then transitioning to like now we're outside your house.
My scene partner Scroop, he's amazing, and it was so much fun to play with him in that scene. I think going into this, before I met him and listening to his voice, I'm like, oh, this guy, he's gonna be like really tough and
Rough
like,
and rugged.
but he was so nice. It's such a sweetheart. For each of the, whenever we would do a different take and he had to rough me up a little bit, he's like, are you okay? Like, am I doing it too
Oh,
hard or
nice.
whatever? So it was very much like open lines of communication between us, and just making sure that we were, felt good about what we were doing together.
Yeah.
So I just want to shout him out.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Dion was a last minute casting. They had somebody else in the role. Myron had gone to I think a wedding or a funeral or something, and Dion was the singer there. He's from Cleveland,
Mm.
and we shot this part in Cleveland. So he was like, "Man, I heard this awesome singer, man. You should really check out his stuff." And so I checked him out, and I was needed for somebody to fill that spot. So I was on the phone with Dion probably like a day or two before we shot.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
bro, can you do this, bro? And so I got him to get to the studio, and then we sized him and stuff, and it worked out. It worked out really well. So yeah, definitely. Well, Sharae, thanks for being here. First of all,
Of course. Thanks for having me.
yeah, definitely, definitely. It's just been just a bunch of guys prior to this, so it's good to
Oh,
have
really?
lady representation. Yeah, tell us like what you're working on, what you're planning on working on in the future.
Yeah, so I have been in audition mode lately, doing a lot of self-tapes. So that's been really where a lot of my priorities have been. I just did a show in Connecticut for a kids musical. It's called Stu Kids, for people who may be interested, Stu Kids Stories. But it's
Okay.
all about Baltimore and that dance culture and things like that. So wanting to do more work created by Black and brown folks, because I think it's important for us to tell our own stories and to get them
Sure.
out there more. And I feel like now is definitely the time that people seem to be more open and willing to hear, and have us at the sort of the driver's seat of those things. So I hope to
Hmm.
be a part of more projects like Hal King and things like that in the future. And then other than that, just trying to like make sure I keep my sanity as much as possible,
Sure.
finding ways to connect with my family and friends. And I
Yeah.
just moved to a new apartment, so enjoying
Okay.
that.
Cool. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. I definitely appreciate you. Um, excited to see about all the things you have coming up in the future, and hopefully we'll have another chance where we can work together on something. I'm sure.
Yes.
You
Just let me
did.
know. I'm always ready.
Yeah.
I'm always
Yeah,
ready.
definitely. You were great in Hal King. Love your energy, your voice. Always super professional. Go call her and hire her for stuff if you're watching
Please.
this. Sharae is awesome. Again, thank you everybody for checking this out. Go watch Hal King again. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on other VODs. That's about it. This is Steve Wallace here. We got Sharae Moultrie in the house, and peace.